So what do we have up first for this morning?
I thought we'd do your grass first because I want to talk about that
All
because
right.
I'm not a fan of the media, as has been very vocalized, because they're just full of shit and they blow things out of proportion. So I want to look at what really happened and let's talk about it.
Right.
Because the fact of the matter is, in real estate, we lost an entire month.
Yeah. Okay. Can I share screen? No.
Yeah, you're co-host.
Okay. There we go. All right. Let's find this. I have it open. Hold on.
I've lost my control panel. My whole thing is weird. I got some grumbling going on.
Here we go. Where I opened them up. Here they are.
Oh, I was sharing. Okay, now I'm back to normal.
Okay.
So now you can share.
Okay. All right. Let me turn these. All right. Let's go back. Now I get it back. Can you let me share? Here we go. Can we see? Okay. All right. The blind leading the blind here. So of course, these are Hillsborough County single family homes. This is September from last year to September this year. So
but don't get discouraged because it's Hillsborough County, because it's really the same across all counties.
they're the same. I looked at all the reports. They're basically mirroring each other right
So
now.
what does the media say about prices?
Oh, they're falling.
Prices are falling. So what are prices September 22 versus September 21?
They're up 15%.
Holy shit. But the media says prices are falling.
Well, if you want to take a look from June, maybe they are, but over a course of a year, we don't look at 1 month as a trend. We have to look at several months. So in this particular picture, and by the way, this is what I call the traditional snake, right? I mean, we go up, we go down. It's not an even keel, right? I mean, we always go up in price March, April, May, June. That's the busiest point of the month. And then things start slowing down towards the end of the year, and then they go back up starting in March again. So this isn't all that.
It's been that way for 30 years.
Yes, it's all. The only time it was very different was in 20, because of the pandemic. It was all screwy, but it was pretty much the same. All right, let's go.
All right, so we debunked the media on slide 1. Prices are not falling. They're up 15% over a year ago.
Right. Now this is an interesting screen, because this one for the last several months, on the left is what sellers are asking for over last year, and on the right is what they're actually getting. So this has really been, in the past, they're asking 19%, but getting 21%. So this is the first month where they're actually not getting what they're asking for.
But
right?
Let's also talk about that. Okay, I talk about my neighborhood because I know it intimately.
Mhm.
The house 2 doors down from my mom just sold for 1 million, just closed at 1,060,000. The house next door just came on the market at 1,460,000. It's not precedented, right? So what he's asking and what he gets are 2 different things.
Correct.
A neighbor a couple months ago put his house on the market at 2.5. He got 2.2, and he's thrilled to have gotten 2.2 because he thought he was going to get 2.
Right.
Right.
But we're still up 15% over last year. So basically, I think everyone is still having that issue of, what do I price the house at right now?
They are.
Okay. And that's
And
really,
we used to have this thing. We called it, let's run it up the flagpole and see who salutes.
right.
Remember that?
Yep.
We don't know.
You
The
know,
market knows. Who determines what the house is worth?
right. The buyer determines what the house is worth.
Based on what else is available the day they decide to buy.
Right. That's exactly right.
And they got nothing available. So
No. So this is sold properties by month.
that's units.
That's units. Okay. So we're down, but remember, we had a week that we didn't have closings.
Yeah. How many weeks did we have in August?
5, well, 30. Yeah. 4. Yeah.
How many weeks do we have in September? 3.
3.
We lost an entire week because that hurricane
Right.
stalled us. I remember I canceled the manager meeting. We got together and said hi and gave hugs and said,
Mhm.
take care of the offices, take care of your houses. We didn't work Monday.
Right.
Tuesday, we had a 30-second sales meeting, so we didn't work Tuesday. Wednesday, Thursday, we were hunkered down. Friday, we were cleaning our yards. So a
Right.
whole, and not much else was
Right.
going.
And I had a closing schedule for that week, but we couldn't get insurance because we were in the cone because we had a new roof put on and they didn't get it on before the cone, before the cone was here. So we had to postpone. It's today.
So September is going to be a wacky, just
Yeah,
abnormal month. I'm
it's
not-
going to be one of those asterisk months where it's not going to follow suit. Under contract properties for the month. I like this screen because it tells me exactly what's happening in the market. So it's saying it's down 29%, but again, we lost a week. We lost a week in there.
A week is 25% of a month.
25% of the month, correct.
Okay, and then I want to remind you all that on Monday, what day was it? When the hot sheet came out after the hurricane, it must have been Friday. No, it was this week, Monday. There were 13 contracts over that weekend. Who the hell buys a house after a hurricane?
Well, everybody got their paperwork in because they were home. They weren't showing properties, so they got their paperwork in. New properties for the month. All right. So this is what has been added in inventory.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
where you're short a week. But I want to talk about this for a second, because over the
Sure.
weekend, we had an agent who had a seller who wanted to put their property active right before the hurricane. And, sometimes, well, first of all, you never get a second chance to make a first impression.
Right.
How many people were actively shopping for houses as a hurricane is approaching Tampa Bay?
Nobody.
Why would you want to do that? The seller wanted to, that's because he doesn't understand the process, and we didn't control that narrative.
Right.
And so that was a problem. And I just heard that from the staff because they were freaking out because they had to get this listing in because they want to do a good job. But
Right.
why? It makes no sense to put a house on the market at that point in time. You wait till the hype goes down when people actually look again. So
Well,
I'm
it's
not
more-
surprised we
it's-
don't have new properties.
Yeah, it's the marketing, right? I mean, why are you going to come on when no one's looking? So that's basically that one.
Yep.
And this is for sale private properties. This is all properties. So we have 30% more properties available than we did a year ago.
And to that, I say thank goodness, because
Yes,
I mean, I've actually had agents telling me they're getting sign calls on their listings now.
because they have a sign.
We had time to put a sign up and let it sit there for a day or two.
Yeah, yeah.
Good thing.
Yeah, not a bad thing, not a bad thing. Expireds up 123%. So this is your overpriced properties, right? That are coming off the market.
Well, I don't want to sound like Pollyanna, but why is that a good thing for us? Because we have expired listings to go after now.
Exactly. I have people targeting these because
When you flex your Century 21 muscle against Dipstick Realty, or sorry, ABC Realty, you win, right? Flex your Moxie muscle, flex your listing presentation muscle, flex your brand presence, flex everything we offer that all these other old competitors don't offer, and you're going to win the expired listing because they realize they made a mistake.
And one of the big things when they interview expired listings, one of the big things that come away with that is the expired listings say the communication was poor.
Right.
And that's why they came off the market. That's why they didn't like their other realtor. So just to FYI. Supply and demand. So the left is the supply. So we're up 30% in supply. Right now our demand is down. But again, we had a month that, we lost a week. So I'm not surprised at that, but we'll see what happens the following, when we get to
But we're
October.
also coming into fourth quarter,
Yes.
which is historically, honestly, I mean, almost unprecedentedly historically, our slowest quarter of the year.
Yes.
Well, it's quarter.
Yeah, it is. And then the average days on the market has gone up from 16 to 32. Wow. I mean, but this is a good slide to explain to your listings, right? That they're not thinking they're going to sell in a weekend.
Yeah, take the pressure off yourself, but 32 days is still a quick days on
It's
market.
quick. Yeah, it's not that much. And that's the average. right? So you have some that are less and some that are more. But if it's more, guess what? It's probably overpriced, right? So,
Right.
or
So
just
what was your famous line? I really liked you said the other day. You put it on the market for 15 days, and if it's not sold in 15 days, you adjust the price.
21 days.
21
3
days.
Yep, 21 days. I give it, and that's just because when you got an average day on the market 32, so where are you? All right, in the market, what is your feedback? You have a decent amount of feedback at this point. If
Yeah,
they're
you
telling you overpriced or things aren't right, obviously, as feedback comes in, you're looking at it all the time. But this is 21 days is a real good time, I find, to readjust, to remarket, to have a sit down, a powwow with the sellers, right?
Yep.
And month supply of inventory is going up, which, you know what? That's not a bad thing.
Well, take note of the scale. The scale goes from 0.25 to 2.75
Right.
month.
Right.
Joe, you've been doing this a long time. I remember it wasn't long.
16 months of inventory.
I remember more than that when we had short sales and stuff going on in 2008 and 9.
Yeah. Yeah.
There were 160 homes for sale in Mirror Bay.
Oh,
There's
my
only
goodness.
1,000 homes in Mirror Bay. 16% of homes
Yeah.
were for sale.
I mean, this screen is just telling us, hey, guess what? There's 3 times the amount of properties a buyer can look at today than they could in March.
Mhm.
All right. So, that's why your days on market are up, because they're taking their time to look, and they are being a little more, for the amount of money they're paying, they are being more selective.
Yeah. Well, it's also a good time to say, I had a thought, it was really brilliant. It was a self-gratifying thought, but forgot it. I just had one of those moments.
Okay.
It was basically, the buyers have choices. And I was going to talk about a shameless plug. It's not always price either.
Mm-mm.
Sometimes it's just repositioning the house, it's changing the photos, it's updating the landscaping. It's, I noticed this the other day. The drive into my neighborhood is not the nicest, right? A bunch of old 1-story houses that were floodplain and all that stuff. And a lot of them have rock yards and very little landscaping. And they were selling in the $400,000 to $500,000 range for years and years and years. And all of a sudden they're selling the 800, 900, 950 range. And I'm noticing that the people that are buying these houses for 800, 900, 950 are ripping out the rock yards and putting in green grass and irrigation systems. And they're putting in landscape islands with palm trees, and all that stuff is starting to happen, which is, sometimes we look at our inventory and it's not up to par with what is for sale. And you're looking at what's for sale against the new home builders.
Right.
And, they've got, fake fruit on the counters and everything, and we don't have that in our listings. So sometimes we could take a little lesson from some of those guys.
And of course, over in your neck of the woods, you are competing with new construction. You got a lot of that over there.
Oh, yeah.
So you don't see new constructions with rock front yard. Okay. You don't see that. And you got to remember who your clientele are. They're people coming from away. They're not, most of the people coming here are from away. So you got to visualize what they think a Florida home is. And I'll be honest with you, to me, a Florida home isn't a rock garden. That would be Phoenix. Okay. That wouldn't be Florida. All right. So that's probably not a bad.
I've noticed the poorly presented homes are sitting. And I've viewed some of these that are beautiful, but they've got poor pictures, poor lighting and descriptions. Yeah, everything matters right now.
Right.
You got to do it. So it's not back to basics. It's back to doing things right. Back to good behaviors.
Right.
It's cool. All right. This is National Contract Friday. We got a bunch of deals to talk about.
Okay.
And this is like all happening this week. And it's a bunch of crazy stuff. And, one of the things I want to bring up is a quote we had from the Tuesday sales meeting was be kind, right? There's a lot of fear in those markets right now. And people trying to flex their muscle and be bullies is not the way to handle it. So I want you to take the power, not you, Joe, but you as an audience, take the power and use the word kind. Hey, let's be kind in this situation.
Craig, we are the drivers, right? I mean, we have to remember we're the drivers in the transaction. And sometimes we have to remind people, this is a transaction that's going to be 35 or 40 days. Let's try to give and take, because we don't know if at some point in the transaction when we need to ask for something. It could be an extended closing date. It could be anything, right? And there's no sense of trying to stomp your feet and trying to get your own way all the time. I mean, it's just kind and gentle. Make it work.
Well, I have a list. I wrote down Joe's closing with a roof issue.
Oh yeah. So that just
first.
All right. Well, that was simple. I mean, we had a townhouse up here in that I sold, and it needed a roof in order for it to sell, obviously. And the seller knew that, and we had it scheduled. It was actually scheduled to go on 2 weeks ago. But with all the rain we had prior to the hurricane, it was tough. The roofers were getting behind and behind and behind. Finally, they got the roof on Saturday, but by then we were in the cone of uncertainty, so we couldn't get insurance until Monday, which then pushed us back until today to get it.
Now let's talk, before you go on, let's talk about the emotions now. You got a seller who's pissed off that he can't get his roof done when he wanted it done. You got a buyer who's pissed off because he can't get into the house and he wants to get into it, right? And what's the solution? It's called shit happens.
The solution is being calm, explaining to the buyer, we are now in the cone of uncertainty. We can't get insurance. This is why I had been pushing to get the roof on, but a buyer agent only has so much pull. I mean, the roofer is going to get there. It's next in line, but he's got other jobs ahead. And, if you remember 2 weeks before the hurricane, we were getting rain in the morning and rain in the afternoon over here. So, I was happy that we got the new roof on Saturday before the hurricane, actually. So, that was, and of course, once it got on, it had to be, we had a call for permits. So that happened on Monday.
And you couldn't get insurance.
We couldn't get insurance till we couldn't bind until Monday. So we got it done, and by the time that went up and underwriting and everything, they could have closed Thursday, but we said, let's make it today. That way it was a little easier on everybody.
So being kind, but let's think about the disruption in all those people's lives. The sellers probably had another place they wanted to go. The buyers probably had to stay someplace they didn't want to stay, or rent a hotel, or do something. So it is just
buyer was in a hotel. The seller was in Pinellas County and actually evacuated to the home that we were selling for a night, just to get out of Pinellas County. Of course, Pinellas County didn't get anything, and neither did we. We didn't get anything over here really in the Northdale Carrollwood area. So everybody lucked out on that part. But the seller was very gracious, and the buyer, he understood. He's a young man, but he got it. He understood.
Lauren wrote in, many of my upcoming listings are going through or have had pre-loved home inspections, especially now post-hurricane. This way, everyone is not blindsided. Instead, the seller is proactive in order to command the best possible price. Also, getting back to the practice of having the sellers offer home warranty for peace of mind as well. Yes. I love it.
Good idea. Good idea.
Dick Wilson said, 9 women can't make a baby in 1 month.
From Dick.
I love it. Okay, so I'm going to cross that one off my list.
Yep.
Chris talked about this one the other day, but I want to go on with it because I got involved.
Okay.
We had an Op City lead call in and say they wanted to sell a waterfront lot here in Apollo Beach. And one of our agents got the Op City lead and followed up and made their presentation over the phone, sent out a .loop listing package. The seller signed the package. We put it on the market. We found a buyer. We sent the .loop contract to the seller. Seller signed the contract. We're going through closing. Hurricane comes. Turns out the seller that we were working with is not the owner of the property. He was a fraudster. And the real owner of the property's daughter drives by the property and says, "Hey, Dad, there's a for sale sign in your yard. The sold provider on it." what's going on? So this guy calls us like we're thieves, right? We're selling his property out from under him. And he wants us to file a fraud claim, and we can't do that. So we made him call the police, which he did. And then I got a call from the sheriff's office, an investigator, and told him everything that's happened. And then he said he'd look into it. And then the fraudster called back, or he didn't call back. He was using Alana, the online chatbot for Paramount Title's website. And he left a phone number for them to call him. So I called the officer and said, hey, this guy's reached out with a phone number. How do we handle this? He said, what's the phone number? And we discussed it. And he said, it sounds like a local cell phone number. He goes, well, I'll call him and put an end to this mess. I said, wait a minute. Don't you want to try to trick him or something? He says, well, let me talk to my supervisor. I haven't heard anything back yet. But it put in the thoughts. So that's why Paramount came out to the sales meeting on Tuesday and said, we're putting a new practice in place. We're going to ask for identification for vacant landowners. You know, we have to find something. Anybody could do that. It's
Well,
just
they could do it with a vacant house. Well, a vacant house would be a little harder to do because you need keys, but I'm glad they're putting something in, and I'm glad we're talking about it with everybody because, you know, the agent didn't do anything wrong. I mean, we did everything we were supposed to do as the agent. I mean, about the only other thing we could do is ask for a driver's license, right?
but that's not a standard practice, but maybe it's
That's not something we do. No.
not normally.
Nope.
So I can't find any fault in anything our agent did. But in hindsight, should we have had a Zoom meeting? Should we have done something? Say, I want to see your face. I want to do something. I think we have to start thinking that way. You know, we had the Hillsborough County Sheriff out to the Apollo Beach office not long ago doing a seminar talking about cyber fraud, and it is prevalent and it is all over. And that was just a very innocent example that probably never would have led to anything. And I will say on record that most criminals are not very smart, but there's no way we would actually close that transaction because we would have had to have identification at closing.
Right.
He wouldn't have been able to match unless he had fake IDs, which is possible.
Doesn't take much today to get fake IDs. I mean, it's kind of a little scary, but you can only put all the procedures you want in place. The idea is that you have them. All right. And I think a good idea is having that Zoom meeting and getting driver's license and stuff like that. Maybe even a notarized document. Who knows?
John, I love the way you type. When Zoe meet Vientiani, picture of ID, I need this for when we hoe under contract. I don't know what that means.
Well, we'll fill in the blanks.
When Zoe meet.
When you meet?
When you meet for the first time.
Okay.
Brenda says, a buyer told me that even on Zoom, people are being scammed, probably.
Oh. Well, I mean, over the weekend, someone sent a bunch of emails out saying they were me and can they help, can you help me and all this. I got a bunch of texts, sent out an email. This is not me. I am not asking for help. I am fine. So, they go into our roster, pick one person. I mean, they've done it to you too, Craig, right? I mean, they go in and say, this is Craig, and, now send me a bunch of Amazon gift cards or whatever.
All right. So that's a warning to be a little more diligent. Not that anybody did anything wrong, but be suspicious, a little more suspicious when you're dealing with somebody you haven't met. Because there's a lot of
and that also calls for incoming Zillow leads, and where people are seeing your picture online, and I'm looking for a house on someplace else. Be cautious. Don't give out a lot of personal information and stuff like that.
Well, let me show you this one real quick. Where is it? Here it is. Hold on 1 second. Share screen, Craig. Speaking of fraud, this is my daughter, Jessica, got a realtor.com lead. So let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get a realtor.com lead?
They see your profile.
They could see your profile, because other than that, they're not calling on your listings. That goes to an agent.
No. Right.
So this is, hi, I am Peter Steve from San Diego. I need a multifamily property in Tampa, Florida, and I feel you could be of great help. Price ranging 1.5 million to 2 million. Thank you. Well, guess what? We found out later.
He doesn't exist.
Kevin Friel got the exact same lead.
Yep. And somebody else in our office got the same, something very similar to the other day, but they were from Boston.
But
So,
why do they do this?
you know, they're trying to get, you know, they're trying to get a hold of you. They're trying to get money out of you. They're, who knows? I mean, I don't know any of us have gone far enough to figure out why. I haven't anyway.
I said to Jessica, I said, why don't you reply and say, I'd be glad to help you. There's a lot of cyber fraud going on right now. Please send me a copy of your driver's license.
Right.
And if he actually is from San Francisco and that is his real name, then I give him the benefit of the doubt until we go to the next step. But we don't want to turn down an opportunity, but we also want to
Just, but you have to be cautious. You have to be cautious.
get their email and signature test. And John, that's one of the things too. I believe, you know, the people that like to do fraud scams want to have a valid email address is a valuable asset to a fraudster.
Mhm.
So when you get these stupid emails, like, you know, you won your Staples gift card and it came from pdq@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Right. It's
Yeah.
just a scam to verify if your email address works. And then they'll sell that address to somebody else as a valid email address. So a lot of that stupid stuff is just don't do it because
Yeah.
it happens all the time.
Don't click on a link that you don't know who the person is.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Angelique said, and use the lifestyle profile checklist, send it to them to complete along with asking for their license. Guys, that's the procedure. We don't make these things up for fun.
Mm-mm.
If a customer gives you their driver's license, they're probably not going to take you out and shoot you somewhere. Right? Because we've got proof of who they are.
Who they are. At least proof of somebody.
Yeah. Kathleen sent me something. I'm going to share again with you.
Okay.
It's just another example. And these things bother me because I know some customer is going to get whacked and we don't want that to happen. Here's a photo of what you never want to have to encounter as a homeowner. Home inspections, they are vital and particularly critical for homes that were built in the early 1900s. In this case, in addition to new electric panel upgrade that was required, take a look at this. Here's a picture of a clay pipe that was recently removed from a Riverside Heights, Tampa property. Remember, it does matter how pretty up the house looks with all the aesthetic work that's been done. But follow it up with that's a clay pipe that was buried in the yard for, 100 years. And that house has to be replumbed. So it might be beautiful wood floors and new countertops and all that other stuff, but it's the bones underground that make a difference when you're selling an older house. So I want you to be really strong with that buyer and say, look, well, with the seller, do a pre-loved home and identify the problem first. And if a seller doesn't do that, then be really strong with the buyer and say, look, we need to hire a plumber, not a home inspector. And the plumber's got to have a camera to go scope these things. So you can find the problems in these things underground with lights and cameras, but you can't do it with the home inspector's general tool.
Mm-mm.
So I think that's something that's kind of relevant that I've been talking about because now, I've been doing this for 30 years. So even a new house 30 years ago is got 30-year-old pipes in the ground now. Right.
That's
And
right.
now we're using PVC more than anything else. Yeah, they use clay in the early years.
The other thing, Craig, that's going on now is you're getting a lot of these flips, right? And they're coming on the market, and you
And
go
they're
in,
pretty.
and they're pretty. They got pretty floors, pretty this, pretty that, but they're older homes, and some of them the roofs haven't been replaced, and it's been really a challenge. And I've had the challenge with you're having people move in from other states that are not as diligent on roofs. The insurance companies are not as picky on roofs as they are here. And you're trying to explain to them that, while it looks very nice on the inside, the roof is 14 years old. So at 15 years, your insurance company is going to tell you you're going to replace it. And do you have $15,000 to do that? And, or it's going to be very difficult to get insurance at all right now if you've got a 14-year-old roof. And you're going to have to, you're going to have to get that done. So that's been a challenge. And, you know, is it lipstick on a pig or is it really done well?
There's a house I know of in this town, and I know the owner well. And when they want to put on the market, I literally recommended to put it on the market as a tear down. And because I know how it was built, I know who built it. I know they got no permits. I know they kept adding things on and adding things on. It was all frame. Great lot. But she ended up getting, it was the height of the market. She got an unsolicited offer, more than double what I thought she was going to get. And she sold it. And that guy fixed it up. And it was beautiful and sold it for a hefty profit. But I know somewhere in the history there, they're going to find that something was done not well. But it was lipstick on a pig for sure. And I'm glad we were not a part of that transaction because I couldn't do that.
Yep.
What did I write down this one for? Oh, okay. We had one of our agents as a buyer put an offer on a house. The effective date of the contract was September 16th. We had a 7-day inspection period. So what's 7 days after the 16th? Come on, guys, count your fingers and your toes. 23rd.
23rd, yeah.
So on the 23rd, our agent wrote a cancellation of contract, release of contract, cancellation of release of deposit, and gave them a letter that said, or we'll fix these things and lower the price. So I think the price was $830. And we said, we're going to cancel. Here's your cancellation signed. Or if you fix these things and we'll accept 800, we'll go forward. Okay. Sounds good.
Reasonable. Yeah.
Well, it's a Dalton Wade agent, 2 of them. And they've decided that we didn't cancel because we've been ongoing negotiations. So they're trying to keep the deposit. So what do you do with that? I called the broker. Guess what? No call back.
No callback, right?
I was very discreet in my email and said, hey, here's a contract. Effective date the 16th. 7-day inspection period ends on the 23rd. Here's a signed cancellation of contract on the 23rd. Give us our deposit back. And they're sitting there. It's been going on since the 23rd, and this is the 7th. So it's 2 weeks now.
Weeks, yeah.
And it's just a waste, and it's a $15,000 deposit. It's sitting there. So it's just another reminder to all of us that, well, first of all, use a small deposit initially, a big deposit at the end of the inspection period.
Right.
That'll lessen the pain a little bit. But make sure we remember to watch those dates, which our agent did a good job of that. But just because we do everything right doesn't mean that we're going to get the deposit back until somebody else signs for it.
Right.
And just such standard common stuff. And the agents always called me to help bail out, which is fine. But I don't have any power there either, other than to flex my muscle and say, hey, I've done more transactions than you. And, you know, my lawyer writes you a letter, but that's just going to take more time. So little things like that are just going.
I don't think just, and we've done this all, I've had this on repair addendums, you know, fix this. If you don't agree to this, consider the, you know, our offer canceled or,
Right.
You know, that's
Just remember, you have no right to request repairs in an as-is contract.
correct.
You have no right to request repairs. That's why I have that additional clause in our contract verbiage. If you try to renegotiate, you understand that as-is the inspections for your benefit only.
Right.
So really the proper thing to do is, hey, we're canceling. And then you resubmit a new offer at the lower price, asking for repairs.
Right.
And then you can legitimately ask for the repairs because as-is contract means as is.
Right.
Reopens the negotiation, but we send it a cancellation too. So that's one thing. I just want to share this with you because it baffled my mind. I'm just going to read it and share the screen. Uninsured losses from Hurricane Ian probably total $40 to $50 billion, including infrastructure damage and cleanup costs. Insured losses are another $65 billion. Lost wages and corporate profits due to airports closed and destroyed facilities probably add another 15 to 20 billion in Florida, with minimal losses everywhere else. As gross domestic product ignores wealth losses, it will knock 2022's GDP for Florida by 4% and national by 0.2. So it's a blip on a pimple on a gnat's butt
Right.
for the country, but for us, it's a big deal. And look at the billions of dollars. That just shocked me.
And unfortunately, Fort Myers, Naples, that area, I mean, if people were planning to move there, they may now move further north to Tampa.
Yeah.
'Cause so that might benefit us.
The guy that talked to us yesterday morning said he looked it up. Tampa's not had a direct hurricane hit in over 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. We've had a lot of brush fires, but that was a lot.
Let's go for another 100.
Yeah, please. Another kindness example. Bob Pasquarello had a deal. He double-sided it. Did a great job on this. The buyers loved him, sellers loved him, just did a great job as one of his neighbors. The buyer is in the hospital with a cardiac arrest right before closing. Now what?
We take the closing papers to the hospital.
I mean, you don't sue somebody like that, right?
No.
It's a shit happens example, and there's just a lot of that going on right now. So sometimes we have to just be the calming voice that says, you know what, shit happens. You know, what can I do? In this case, Bob's got everybody calm down. They're all waiting, and the guy's going to be okay.
And that's all we care. It'll be okay, and the transaction will go forward.
But technically, it was a cash contract. It wasn't a cash contract. It was a finance contract, but it was checked all cash. So theoretically, he's going to miss closing, and we could, call him in default. But the guy's in the hospital with a heart attack.
Right.
And it's not fake. It's not a heart attack. And he's a 2-time medal winner, a hometown hero type of thing.
Yeah.
It's got to be kindness. So rather than flexing your muscles all the time, sometimes exercise kindness, because that's what a lot of this stuff is right now.
Right. Kindness doesn't hurt. It really doesn't. Takes
Joe,
less.
talk about your other email you sent me was how interest rates are affecting.
Yeah.
Well, I got a couple more things on my list here.
Go ahead.
Mike Reichenbach has a situation from years ago, a piece of property we sold twice. The current owner is having problems, and he's asking us for copies of our listing paperwork from 1 and 2 sellers ago. So what do we do? Question. What was my theme today is started with the K word. Give them what they want. What are we going to do? We're going to hide it. Then they're going to get a lawyer. They're going to subpoena us, and we have to give it to them anyway.
No.
If we have it, give it to them.
Yes.
We're not hiding anything. We have to keep our files for 7 years.
There's nothing for us to hide. No.
The seller has signed a seller's disclosure statement. We have it. Give it
We
to
didn't
them.
we didn't live in the house. The seller did. So.
But I just want to, it's just that being kind and helpful.
Yep.
We probably sold that house to the guy. And if we have the records he needs, well, they're going to get them one way or the other. I get subpoenas all the time. Right? People just say, I need this, and we've got to give it to them. That's why Loop is so nice, because I can just go to Loop, grab this up, download it, and boom, one PDF and it's out of my door.
You got it.
A lot of flippers are putting lipstick on a pig and not paying attention to the 4 points and what's underground or on top of the house. Correct. Yeah, they're just making it look pretty for the photos. Flippers offered patch and paint for a big profit. Yes. As is means as is. Hate as is. That's cat. What about the roof? What the roof is 18 years old with an as is offer contract. Can the buyer after inspection request?
No.
No.
They disclosed it was 18 years old. You made your offer based on their disclosure.
You can cancel when you find out after the fact that it's 18 years old, if you're in the inspection period.
Right.
But what you should do is say, hey, this house needs a new roof. You want 300,000, the roof's going to cost 25. I'll offer you 275.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'll have to ask you for a $25,000 credit at closing because I don't have 25 grand to put the roof on the house. That's the way you would do that. And once again, I think the best thing to do in that situation to avoid is just cancel and then resubmit an offer at 275 or 300 with a $25,000 cash credit for a roof.
The real issue now is getting to, if it's a finance deal, they're not going to get insurance with an 18-year-old roof.
Oh yeah, probably not.
No, you're not.
Unless it's a tile roof. Tile roof still goes.
Unless tile, of course. Yeah.
But a tile roof isn't a $25,000 roof. Mine was 60.
No, no. Yeah, a lot more.
Okay, you had two. One was how interest rates affect mortgage qualification. Then Ann had a seller that you wanted to
Yeah.
talk.
Do you have that or do you want me to pull it up?
You pull it up.
Okay.
It's in the same email you sent me.
Yeah. I just got to get to that screen. Okay. How do I? Trick question here. Okay. I got to get out of this exit full view. I got to get to my laptop. Here we go. Give you a second. I'll pull it up. Here we go. There it is. Share screen. Here we go. Haha. Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, good.
I think
So
it's a great example to show because we're probably going to the 7% range, guys, just so you know.
Right.
We're gonna be there soon. So this is, I did a really good job explaining how a buyer is affected by the increase in price. In some cases, it's worse and sometimes it's better than actually thought. So go ahead and cover it.
So the first group column there, you can see you have the various percents, 4.5, 5, 6, 7 going down. And then for a $300,000 mortgage at a 4.5%, that mortgage, the P&I, only P&I, would have been 1520 on 4.5%. At 7.5%, at 7%, it would be 1995. But what?
So it's a car payment, right?
Yeah. So, but next to it is, remember, your mortgage can only be, your front end ratio is 28%. So I use 25 in this because I didn't add taxes and insurance because that's part of your front end ratio. So you can see at 4.5% at a $300,000 mortgage, I need a $72,000, almost $73,000 of income to qualify for that. But you get down to 7%, I need a $95,000 income to qualify for that same $300,000 mortgage.
Yep.
And it basically is the same going across. You can see 400,000, the change in 400 from $2,000 to $2,600. You're adding $600 a month to a payment going from 4.5 to 7%. And a $500,000 mortgage and a $600,000 mortgage, you got the same kind of incremental. And of course, when you get to $600,000 at 7%, you know, you're looking at a $3,900, almost $4,000 payment there. So you're looking at about $191,000 of income to qualify for that payment.
And that's just principal and interest.
That's P&I. Yeah.
So the monthly payment is,
You gotta add taxes, insurance to that too. Yeah.
and then add insult to injury, because that $600,000 house was a $400,000 house 2 years ago.
Yes. So those,
So now 4 years ago, you were paying $2,000 a month for a $2,000, $400,000 house. But now you're paying $4,000 a month for a $400,000 house.
and this is how
Was previously a $400,000 house.
But when you look at it, this is what's happening. This is why buyers are dropping out, because, you know, there's a big difference at 600,000. I make $145,000 a year versus I have to make 200,000, almost $200,000 a year. That's a big difference in income spread. And if I've been out looking at $600,000 houses, you know, I really, you know, now I got to look at something way less than that. And maybe I don't want to buy something less than that. So I'm just going to hold off.
Well, let's talk through that a little bit, because there's some good news in there too.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me to buy a $600,000 house, I probably sold my other house.
Correct.
So let's say I sold my house for $450,000, but I bought it for $200,000.
Mm-hmm.
So I banked $250,000 on that one, right? Let's actually have this conversation.
Yep.
So I made $250,000 on that house.
Right.
That's tax-free
Mm-hmm.
profit. So
Right.
now I put $250,000 on my $600,000 house. I'm back to a $350,000 mortgage.
Correct.
And I get to port my Save Our Homes tax benefit because I bought the house for 250 and sold it for 400 or whatever number I said.
Right.
So I get to port my tax savings over to my $600,000 house. So now I'm only paying taxes on a $400,000 house instead of a $600,000 house. But
Right.
those are the conversations we got to keep talking people through.
Yeah.
Right. Because there are some benefits to this,
Right.
If I sell my house today, I mean, I got a lot of equity. I've owned this thing for a long, 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 long time.
Mhm.
Right. So I could go buy a $2 million house and put almost $1.5 million down and end up with
Yes.
a much of a bigger mortgage than I have right now.
Right.
But it's not as nice a house as what I'm selling. So, but that's how people are doing it.
Right.
And what we're finding, and that's why there's 1,000 people a day moving to Florida, is they're taking their high paying jobs from other states and they're getting work from home orders. And they
Mhm.
come to Florida with no state income tax and really good portability and tax savings on this and other savings. And they're going, wow, and they're getting a house for $1 million that would be $2 million where they came from.
Right.
Hence
Right.
California, right?
Yeah.
And guys, it was 65 degrees this morning when I walked to Philly. I mean, it's a pretty nice time of year right here.
Oh,
So that's like another viewpoint of what people are seeing when they come from Colorado, California, New York, Washington, Boston. They're taking there's much higher paying jobs in those markets. And that's why they're coming here.
and a lot of those people, they're moving here because they work from home and their employer doesn't care where they work from.
Yep.
So that's helpful.
There's a
Right.
young couple that bought one of my neighbor's houses over here. They're from DC. They were paying $5,000 a month in rent.
Oh, yeah. DC, very expensive. Very expensive.
In rent on a little rental house.
Mhm.
And they bought $1 million house here on the water with a dock and a pool
Right.
and a waterfall.
Yep.
And their payment is less than that. And they work from home. Yeah, my rates are not at 7 yet, but all indications are they're going that way.
Yeah, they popped over 7 last week for a day and then went back to like 6 in the high 6s.
Crazy.
Yeah. Well, when interest rate is or inflation is 10-12%, it's still a deal.
Okay, the last issue I had on our list here today is Ann's deal. The seller that
Oh,
won.
yeah. And had a seller. God bless her. It went under contract. And
Well, let's back up. The seller
Okay.
called a real estate agent, said, I want to sell my house. We
Right.
went through listing presentations, all the crap we do,
Mhm.
put it on the market, took photographs, marketed it, had showings, did all this stuff, found a buyer, seller signed a contract. So it's not like that we just sold a house, right? A lot of work went into this.
Oh, and by the way, she found them a house and it's a new house and they bought that. So she also is finding them a new house. Okay. So they got $65,000 deposit down on the new house. And so now the land puts their house up on the market, sells it, had a lot of showings. And all of a sudden they call her on the phone and said, oh, we have COVID. We can't let them in for inspection. So everybody was okay with that. We got through, we extended the dates. And then the buyer did do their inspection, came back with a couple things. The stove didn't work right, or the dishwasher didn't work right. It was a brand new dishwasher and the microwave didn't work right. So they sent in their request and the seller's like, well, we don't want to fix anything. And they were dancing. And finally Ann goes, listen, you got to tell me what's going on. We don't want to sell the house. We're afraid because the interest rates are going up. Our houses are going to be ready till January. The interest rates will be really high. We don't want to sell. And so they wrote this letter to send to the buyer. And, mea culpa, I changed my mind. And I said, Ann, do not send that letter yet. Okay. And what we need to do is explain to them, if they cancel the contract, we need to have them go talk to an attorney today. What's going to, if they can, because they're in breach.
Say
There's
a real estate attorney, please, because it's
Yes, a real estate attorney. So I said, send that to them in writing, send them a copy of the contract. So they have that. And she did that.
and the listing agreement, because what does the listing agreement say?
says you owe us commission.
Yeah. our commission is earned at the time of sale.
Yes,
We accept payment at closing, but our commission was earned.
yes.
So you can cancel the contract and you will owe us a commission, which we're entitled to.
So, so the seller did call the real estate attorney, and the real estate attorney said, and they can sue you for performance, and listed a whole bunch of things. And so he called Ambag and said, you and your manager are right. I can't just cancel this. And, you know, I looked it up on Google and it said all I needed to do was, you know, give them their deposit back. Okay. So
That's like us Googling medical advice, right?
yes, yes, exactly. A doctor, I have, you know, I got this thing and, you know, yeah. So, you know, and did everything. I mean, we, you know, the 9.9% of the 99.9% of the time, when you say to a buyer or seller, seek legal advice, and they do it, they're gonna continue with the transaction, because you know, the penalties are going to be more than they're going to want to do. And so now they're packing, and closing is next week. So we got through it, and but it's good to know that Google was not correct on this advice. But this is, I mean, all credit to Ann. I mean, she walked them through and said, you know, let me talk to my manager. You know, this is not a good move to. And I said, Ann, you send that email over to them, this letter. And she read me the letter. I said, that's basically saying I want to breach contract. Don't do that yet. You know, that's not what we want to do. We want to make sure. So in all, the buyer agreed to take the house as is without any repairs. And they're closing next week. They're coming from California. They're selling their house and for $1.4 million in California, and buying this one here.
Right.
So all is good. So
the lesson for me, for you out of this, don't be afraid to say, I'm not an attorney. You really need to check with an attorney, but don't say an attorney, say a real estate attorney.
Real estate attorney, correct.
Because there's a big difference. Everybody's an attorney, but not everybody's a real estate attorney.
No.
So, and I do it all the time. Sir, I'm sorry, I'm not a lawyer. You really need to check with a real estate lawyer. I can tell you what I think they're going to say, but you need to hear it from them.
Yeah.
Right. And I will tell you, and blame it on me.
And at that point, when you're getting to recommend that, always do it in an email. Oh, you know,
in writing, yes.
Yes, always do it in email. Per our phone conversation, I really think you need to seek a real estate legal advice from a real estate attorney. I am attaching a copy of the contract so you can forward that to him and go from there, because you don't want, you know, they're going to have amnesia if something horrible happens. So, you know, you don't want them to come back at you. So,
yeah. Okay, Mike, two things on yours. The listing agreement is our contract. And if it was just a listing, we could take him off the market. We could enforce our $2,000 cancellation fee, or we could not. In many cases, we don't, because it's just, we want to be kind too. And in many cases, we want to leave them on a good relationship so we get to listen when they do want to sell it in the future. But that's case dependent. Now, if they took advantage of us, no, we don't do that. But this is worse than that, because not only does he want to cancel his listing, he wants to cancel a purchase and sale contract, which is a totally different agreement, which is where we can't give advice.
right.
Yeah, you could be misled. Maybe there's another solution to move the closing up so the guy doesn't leave so early or something. All kinds of different ways we can solve those problems when they come around. But
Right.
Lauren, I do, but I don't know where it is right now. I've got his email because we've been talking back and forth with that sheriff's case thing. But
It's
also,
Paul something.
no, it's Danny.
Oh, okay.
Danny Ekenhouse. Hold on, it just. My phone's got a lot of recent phone calls in it, but.
Danny Econos.
Yeah, Eskinos.
Yes, his
719-650. I'll put it in here.
yeah.
Make sure it goes to everyone. And let's talk about that too, Lauren, because you only refer a customer like that to Danny. Because Danny's gonna have a conflict of interest because he represents us.
Right. They
So
need
they're
to
gonna go to a third party attorney.
correct.
Danny is no 719.
650-3032.
Exactly what I have.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna have Danny Eskimos. I have two keyboards, so
Oh, okay.
it's like, what's he doing? My computer keyboard's over there, my laptop's over here, but I use a big monitor over there, so. Cool. Well, Joe, we covered everything on my list today.
Awesome.
Hope you
Awesome.
guys got some of that. A lot of this is just, we get in situations that are uncomfortable and we second guess ourselves. A lot of times we know, basically know in our heart of hearts what's right, but sometimes you just need a second voice, and that's what we're here for. Call
Well,
me, call Joe,
As,
call
as,
Chris,
as-
call
yeah,
Thomas.
as an agent, you're emotional about it. So sometimes you need someone that doesn't have the emotion wrapped up into it to think through it. And we're always here.
My
Don't
business
call-
group, we always had a saying, it's hard to read the prescription when you're inside the bottle,
Very true.
right?
Very true. That's it.
That's what we're here for. Teamwork makes the dream work. All right, guys, today's Friday, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is
Ah,
Friday.
Flew by.
Thank you, Craig. You have an
Thanks,
awesome,
everybody. All right, happy Friday.
have a good day.